Welcome to the Joyful Path podcast. I'm Kira.
And I'm Shalise.
This is a space for honest conversations about faith, about surrender, miracles, and learning to live with joy.
Here we share real stories, the kind that remind us how Christ meets us in the middle of our mess and gently brings us home to who we really are.
Our hope is that as you listen, you'll feel encouraged to trust Him more deeply and to find joy right where you are.
We're walking this path right alongside you, growing, learning, and finding beauty in the journey.
Thanks for being here with us. This is the Joyful Path podcast.
Have you ever heard the quote, "Whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right," by Henry Ford? Well, that is what we're talking about today. We're talking about the power of words and how our words that we speak influence our reality. And I'm really excited to dive into this because it's something that we've all gone through. We've all gone through the journey of, speaking words that are not serving us and then bringing that awareness of like, this is how it's affecting me. So we're going to dive into how it affects us, maybe a little bit of the science behind it, and then also just how it's personally affected us as well. So I'm very excited.
Yeah, we are powerful creators. And we are constantly creating, whether we consciously are aware of it or not. But it is through our thoughts and our beliefs and our emotion, our expectations, and what we say that we create our reality. And our inner world becomes the blueprint of our outer world. What we store and hold and believe within reflects outward into our lived experience. But the cool part is that as we heal wounds, emotional pain, trauma that we're holding, and clear out and align our inner vessel to truth, we can create more consciously with more intention. And also, as we do that, it's like our ability to create is more magnified because we're clearing out density or blocks or, just the way in which we see the world through a certain lens. Our perception changes.
Okay, so let's talk about the lens for a second. So we each have a lens that we see the world from based on our experiences and what we see as safe. So our nervous system is kind of constantly always scanning our surroundings to be safe.
Mhm.
So if we've learned at one time or another, someone, maybe a parent, said something like, let's bring money into this a little bit. Maybe they brought up rich people. Oh, those rich people are greedy. Oh, rich people are this. Money doesn't grow on trees. All this like negative connotation with money. Then as a child, you learn, I shouldn't ever become rich or I'm going to be greedy. And then my parents aren't going to like me very much. And so whether you realize it or not, as you grow older, you start to repel money a little bit, or maybe you get a whole bunch of money and you figure out a way to get rid of it really fast because you don't want to be seen as greedy. And that's the lens. That's the lens that you are viewing your money world through. And now this can work in many areas of life. Money's just an easy one to bring up, but talk a little bit more about the lens and how we begin to like bring awareness to that.
Yeah, so our nervous system holds the memory and experiences that we go through, and it holds how we felt in those situations. So, like, it shapes the reality of what we believe. And so, what we believe within is going to reflect like our subconscious mind wants to make whatever we're believing true, no matter what it is. So it'll look for whatever we're believing, it will look for that in our outer world to solidify that belief as well. So if we become aware of beliefs that aren't serving us and choose to shift them, we then shift our outer reality. But our words are so powerful. Like, you think of when the world was created and it was spoke. The creation was spoke into existence. I feel like that's what is reflected for us in our life as we uh, are creating through our words, like to be very intentional and to be careful in the ways that we are speaking and believing and talking about ourselves because we want it to align with what we actually desire.
Very true. It's easy to start to, be like, well, I'm having a crappy day. So you just affirm that over and over and over again. And you're just creating more and more of that. And it's until we can bring the awareness to that, we'll just keep living on this autopilot of going through the motions. And so I like how you talked about we are creators. That is part of realizing how powerful we are is we can create so many things. And God laid out the example for us. He showed us how to create. Here's some examples of what this looks like in our everyday life with our words.
Well, in creation, I feel like it's important to get really clear on what do you actually desire in your life. And there's so many different ways to focus, right? In our marriage, like what do we want to experience in our marriage? What do we want it to feel like is a big one. What do we want to create in our home? What do we want to experience in our work, in the world that we do, in our friendships, our relationships? What do we want to feel every day? So, like getting really clear on what we actually desire to be able to describe that and see it and feel it. And then I feel like it's recognizing, okay, if you want to focus on one thing, one focus, recognizing, okay, what am I believing right now that is contradictive to what I desire, And then working through, utilizing the atonement, turning to Christ to shift. And then what do you want to replace like an unhealthy belief, right? Like, let's say in your marriage, you really want to create deep connection, like emotional safety. What can be helpful first is to create it within yourself, but also, like, what are you believing about your relationship? Is there something you can shift? Like, maybe you're like, oh, well, they never listen, or they don't want to hear what I have to say, or they're not safe to talk to. Whatever it is, recognizing what am I actually believing, because then I can choose to shift that belief and start believing something different and solidify that in our mind, right? Because our minds are powerful. Whatever we hear over and over and over, we're like programming.
Mhm. And we were totally programmed as a child. Our brains, I learned this a little while ago, our brains are literally in like this hypnosis state almost until we're 8 years old. We are literally being programmed how to survive and how to be loved and how to fit in with a community to stay safe. And so, based on those first 8 years of your life, it starts to create that lens for which you view life through. And knowing that is really empowering because even if you had a really rough first 8 years of life, you can look at it and you can rewrite all of it. You're not a victim to your past, ever. You can use it for your good and your gain and to increase in compassion and empathy and understanding and to become an even wiser teacher based on your past experiences. So I love that it is all so empowering. The more awareness you create, the more you realize how powerful you truly are. I like how you talked about some examples we had mentioned earlier of ways to rephrase things. So if you say like, I'm just struggling so much, to rephrase that to I'm learning. Because then your subconscious hears that, you're learning and you're growing rather than I'm just struggling. I'm worthless. Even how we talk about our bodies, if our body is struggling in some way, it's not helpful to constantly be talking about that. I noticed I was doing that the other day. Digestion sometimes struggles. And I was talking about it. I think I was talking about it a lot because I was trying to figure out what to do to help Like, what do I need to eat better? What do I need to do? And my husband just brought up, like, you're saying that a lot. Like, you're really like affirming that a lot. And I love that he said that because I'm
Yeah.
like, yes, I am. I know better. But until we bring our awareness to it, we just kind of get sucked into this is my life and this is what I'm dealing with. And it kind of sucks.
Mhm.
But man, it does not have to be that way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, going along with what you're saying, words are not neutral. They're energetic instruction.
Okay.
So, if we're saying like I'm always struggling with money or nothing ever works out for me or I'm just bad at relationships or not thinking you're good enough or smart enough or capable of doing something, words reinforce our beliefs. And beliefs shape our perception, and perception shapes our experiences. And so the more that you heal, the more you align your heart, your heart and your mind and your body all becoming more aligned, that's where we can create with more ease the desires that we really want. But like you were saying, what you're experiencing, if you just focus on that, it's just going to reaffirm it, right? It's going to feed it. So it's almost like becoming aware of the experience and seeking to understand it, but also what do you desire and focusing on what you actually desire to create that.
Okay, that's kind of a big deal to really focus on what we desire. How many of us are going through life and we're just doing as much as we can every day and we're not actually asking ourselves, what do I really want?
Seriously.
So if you get clear on what you really want, that's when you can start to identify what's stopping you. So I did this a couple years ago with money to write down my limiting beliefs that I had with money. And it was interesting. I didn't realize how many I had. Like my husband would make really big goals, and you'd think that that'd be like an exciting, cool thing. But for me, I'd look at those goals and I'm like, like it would stress me out. And I'm like, why? Why did that stress me out? And I realized that one of my limiting beliefs with money was the more money you have, the busier you'll be.
Mm.
So I almost thought like, oh no, if we have all this money, I'm going to be so busy. I'm not going to have time to do all the things I love. And it's so funny because now I look at that, I'm like, that is so not accurate. But I totally was believing that. And so subconsciously, I'm kind of like figuring out ways to make sure that doesn't happen. And then also as if abundance did come, I would find myself getting more and more busy. And then I would not like it. Like I was totally making it a reality.
Yeah.
And it's fun to start to see all of that because you realize that you are in control of your life and you're not a victim to it. And you can start to shift all of that.
Mm.
There was a reel on Instagram the other day of a lady in the Olympics, and she was being interviewed on the news. And then somebody asked the question. They're like, I don't mean to like offend you, but do you really think before you talk? Because sometimes like someone asks you a question and you just know immediately and you just have all these thoughts with it. And the lady, her response, she kind of went into some of her past and really stepping into who she is. And one thing she said, she was like, isn't it so cool that we can decide who we want to become? Like if we want to become this, and this, we get to choose that and we can become that if we want to. And she was just like so excited to share that we can become whatever we want to become. And it was such a fun, hopeful, and happy message that really is true. We can become anything if we choose.
Yeah, if we choose the power of choice, yeah, we can create anything that we desire. And as we have that intention and that focus, I feel like things will naturally come up for us to become aware of that don't align with that. But I feel like it takes conscious awareness and reaffirming to reprogram, and to create it intentionally what we truly desire, right? And I feel like a really important piece of this is knowing who you are, like legit knowing who you are and embracing and embodying who you are is really important, because then when outside forces try to tell differently, you can stay grounded and firm in that truth. And knowing who you are and being empowered in that, you can be like unstoppable. It's like
Mhm.
whatever you want to do, like the sky's the limit. Really? What do you believe about that? What do you want to create? It's just like it can be really exciting when we're intentional and focus on the desires of our heart and work through our beliefs or things that are trying to hold us back, or maybe ways we might sabotage because our nervous system is like, not safe, not safe. Like somebody's nervous system could feel like it's not safe to feel love, like a lot of love, or it's not safe to deeply connect with others, or it's not safe to feel joy, all the good things. And it's like rewiring and rewriting your story.
Yeah, as you were talking, it made me think about sometimes when we just decide it's safer to not want a lot of things. We're like, I'm just happy with a roof over my head. To realize why you're saying something like that, it's probably because you don't feel like you'll get anything more. So you've kind of settled. We do that a lot in areas of our life. We settle for something lower and we're like, I'll just be happy in this little bubble over here. But when we do decide to start asking those questions, and when you say you can have anything you want, what, question for the audience, what comes up in your head? Do you really think, oh yeah, I can have everything I want? Or are you thinking, well, yeah, that person can, but I can't because of this, and this? What's your because? What is the reason, the excuse, maybe the inner dialogue that's coming up that's saying, you can't have that because this, and this, because you had this background, because you don't have wealthy parents, because you don't have this experience, because you don't have these friends, you don't have this influence. All of those are leading into victim mentality and limiting beliefs. There's limiting beliefs that are causing you to believe all of that about yourself.
Yeah.
And it can be changed.
Yeah, and they're really, stories that we're holding on to.
Okay, stories. Yes. Do you want to talk a little bit about stories? Our mind is constantly telling stories. So is there ways, as you notice it coming up, I'm still doing it more than I would like, telling yourself a story and sinking a little bit into woe is me or whatever comes up. Do you have a tool or a way to rewrite that quickly, slowly?
I feel like it's just being aware of what's the story that I'm believing about this thing. Let's say, what's a good example? Maybe like somebody believing, well, I'm just really shy, and I don't have a lot of friends, and I am afraid to show myself. That could be a story, but you can choose differently. Like, you know what? I can choose to be courageous. I can choose to speak to someone. If what I really want is deeper connection in a relationship, opening up to that awareness and then seeking for invitations where you can create that intentionally.
Something that came up for me earlier this week, I was listening to, there's a podcast called To Be Magnetic, the Expanded podcast, and they use the word expanders. So if you see somebody that you're like, I just really want to be like them, or you look at them and they're like, so where you want to go, rather than kind of seeing yourself as, oh, poor me, I'm not like them, start to see that person as an expander. Use their life to kind of help you to see that it's possible and expand your own mind to become like that. And then to take it one step further, if you can surround yourself with those expanders, with those people that have the things you want or are more confident or are more of the things that you want to become like, then it'll just happen so much faster and so much easier because you become who you spend time with.
Mhm.
And that was kind of exciting for me because I was like, oh, what a fun and easy tool to expand myself. Just spend time with people who have accomplished some of the things that I admire. And that was just kind of a fun and fun verbiage of how to look at people who are accomplishing great things.
Yeah, I was gonna bring that up, so I'm glad that you did. Anytime we're feeling like jealousy or envy of someone else, that's just really an invitation to be like, what about this do I want? And getting clear on what it is in this scenario with this person that you're jealous or envy of. It just is an invitation to be like, you can have that. But what about that do you want?
And it helps you get clear on what you actually want, because that's the biggest part of it, is knowing what you actually want. And it's kind of going to be a lifelong journey too, because our wants and everything will shift and it'll get more clear. Maybe we thought we wanted this really nice house or whatever it is, and we realize what we actually wanted was just a peaceful home.
Mhm.
You
Mhm.
can hone in on exactly what you want. So going back to the power of words, water is fascinating to me. And there's been a lot of science experiments done on water and words to help show us that our words are powerful. So let's dive into water just a little
Mhm.
bit. So Dr. Emoto has a few books about water, like Hidden Messages in Water
That
is
one,
one
yeah.
of them. He's got a few. And then there's also Veda Austin, and she's currently doing a lot of experiments. Dr. Emoto passed away in the early 2000s, but Veda Austin's experiments are interesting because she'll actually take a petri dish of water and put like a picture under the water for a little bit, freeze it, and then the water will reflect that image that you put on it. So it's not even just like when Dr. Emoto did his experiments, he was using words like love. He would freeze the water and then look at it under a microscope, and he would see that the isotope or the water molecules, they froze in a beautiful formation, and it was just symmetrical, and it, yeah, kind of looked like love. And then he would try words like hate, and it formed in this like ugly, like pokey way, or it didn't form at all. And so he was just really dove into how fascinating that is. And he has a book showing all sorts of experiments based on the power of our words. And one of the conventions that he was speaking at, they had water bottles that they were passing out to everybody, and they took all the labels off the water bottles and they put a new label on with an empowering word on it, like love or joy or happiness or something. And then those were the water bottles that everybody was drinking out of. And I loved that because it's like, if you can set your intention on the water when you're drinking it, we are 60-70% water in our bodies, and water responds to our words. So you can literally drink in health, drink in love, drink in happiness, and it's just based on our words and our intentions as well. So I've done a few of the water experiments. As last year I was really diving into water, and it just fascinated me. I would be upstairs in our living room, and I would put a piece of paper on the table, like a sticky note, and I would write love on the sticky note. And then I would put the petri dish over the sticky note. And what's interesting is I did this experiment a couple times, and one time it didn't work like I thought it was going to work. But then I kind of looked at my surroundings, and like the TV was on and the kids were running around, and there was like some chaos going around me.
Mm.
I was like, wow, that actually, hey, that matters. That's interesting. Water picks up on the energy around it.
Mhm.
And so another time when it wasn't chaotic, I tried the water experiment where I put the water in a petri dish, put love underneath it. And it was interesting. As I was doing it, a song popped in my head. And so I was humming. It was like a hymn or something. It was a very good, happy song. I can't remember what it was. And I was just kind of humming it. And I was putting the water in. I put it in the freezer. And then you only have to freeze it for like 6 to 8 minutes. And I pulled it out of the freezer, and it was crazy, like what it looked like. Because I also did so many experiments to see that this is typically how the water freezes in my freezer, and it looks kind of pokey or different looks to it. This one was completely different. It was like spirally. It looked like flowers. There was like a little pyramid thing on it. Like it was so interesting. And I was just fascinated by it. I'm like, holy cow, this is so cool to see it, in your own experience is different than just looking at it in books.
Yeah.
Because in Veda Austin's book, she starts it with water is wild. We can't control it. We can't, it's wild, and we're here to learn from it. And so knowing that our words affect the water and that literally everything that's alive has water in it, plants, animals, the earth, our bodies, all of it. It's like, it's so scientific and so spiritual and so emotional. It's like really connecting all of it. And it's a practical tool of how to use water to help heal ourselves as well.
Yeah, because the water holds the memory of the words that are spoken, the vibration it's spoken at. So when we think about our bodies and how much water is in our body, and then you ponder about your mindset, what are you thinking? Because you're literally like charging the water within your body with those words, with the way you're thinking, with the emotions that you're feeling, and the impact of what that would do in either way, positive or negative in what we're experiencing.
So to really look at what you truly believe about yourself. Do you believe that you're worthy? Do you believe that you're loved? Do you embody love? Or do you think, I'm so unhealthy, I'm lazy, like, what do you truly, truly believe about yourself? That is, really, really good to get clear on, because I've talked to a lot of people that they just don't think very highly of themselves. And I've been there, so I'm not gonna.
We all are.
Yeah, and sometimes I've still there of like, why can't you be this way or whatever. It's so, it's, yeah, it's a really good reminder that that actually matters, and there's nothing noble about thinking less of yourself. That's something to probably repent over. I'm sorry for thinking that I'm less than I am. We really limit the ability that we have to serve others when we think that we're less than we are.
True. Yeah. We hurt ourselves, we hurt our body. There's also those experiments, like, I don't know if you've seen, but like where children will take two different plants and they talk to this one plant, just so loving and so uplifting and so kind. And then this one, like super mean and nasty things and yelling at it and all those things. And you can literally see the difference in this plant's like dying, legit. And this one's thriving. And you can see it. People have done it with rice and different stuff and mold and just yuckiness that happens in the other one.
Okay, so the rice experiment that Dr. Emoto, he did that one as well. And he took it a step further. He said, okay, let's do one that we, love, one that we hate, and one that we completely ignore. We just pretend it doesn't even exist. It's just gone. It's away in its corner, and no one's going to pay attention to it. The one that was completely ignored was far worse than the one that was told negative words to. And if you think about that, as us humans, some children, it's easy to see it in children, how many kids lash out and they know what they're doing is bad, but they're going to get a reaction out of it. They're going to get attention. Getting attention from doing a negative behavior is way better than no attention at all. And so we really want to be noticed. And I imagine with the plants, maybe it would be similar as the rice, but if you're just completely ignored, well, I don't know about plants. It was interesting with the rice one that, we definitely want attention towards us, whether it's, negative or positive. We just want to be noticed. And so I thought that was really interesting.
Yeah. So yeah, the words that we speak, just being mindful of what am I saying out loud? Like sometimes people that I love will just say something like, let's say, this always just happens to me. I have like the worst luck. And it's like, no, don't say that. Because it creates it. And as you keep reaffirming it, it's like you're going to draw that in as well
Mm-hmm.
to be your experience, solidify it.
Yeah, I was talking to my sister and she was mentioning that she just always hits green lights. She's like, I just know that I'm just always going to hit green lights. And I do all the time.
Yeah.
And then she was like, but my husband, he says that, like, or, you know, like he always hits red lights and it's just this joke in their relationship now. But I just thought it was interesting. I'm like, well, if you genuinely believe that you're always going to hit that, there's something there. There's an energetic exchange that happens when you truly believe something about yourself.
Mhm.
So it's kind of fun to start experimenting a little bit with that because you do get more clear and it just adds a little bit of fun and variety to life, in my opinion.
Yeah, try it out. Like, and it could be something as simple as that, like, I always hit green lights. I always hit green lights. And really, like, continually affirming that over and over and over, and then see what happens.
Mm-hmm.
Or like, I always find the best parking spots.
Yeah. And
Whatever you want.
yeah, I've something along those lines. When you start doing that, if you notice it's not happening, sometimes we get really attached to the outcome.
Hmm.
And we think it needs to happen this way to prove to myself that I'm whatever. That will actually repel what you want. Is if you become so attached to it, like release the outcome.
Yes.
It's so funny. Last year in January, I was doing this manifesting challenge with a friend, and it was like a 30-day challenge where every day there was a new focus. And one of the days it was ask for a sign. And I had never really done that before, like ask for a specific sign. So before asking for a sign, I kind of wanted to do more research on it. I read a book called Signs that was this lady that really dove into signs. And so I was like, okay, well, I'm gonna ask for a sign then. And the first thing that popped in my head was asparagus. And it was random and weird enough that I was like, okay, we're gonna go with it. Like, I don't see asparagus often in my life. It's not. And I kind of was telling myself, I'm like, okay, if I'm gonna ask for this, I'm not gonna do it. I'm not gonna be like, well, I'm gonna go to the store and buy asparagus. And that was my sign. Like, it has to be kind of organic how it shows up. And so after setting that intention for the sign, I was very I was hyper aware. I was like, when's it going to show up? And I was constantly looking around and my attachment to it was pretty high.
Yeah.
Because I was like, this has got to work. And a couple weeks went by and I didn't see nothing really came about. And I started to release my attachment to it. I was like, it's okay. I don't need that. It's asparagus. But I released my attachment to it.
Yeah.
And I started just going on with my normal life. Not like I wasn't going on with my normal life, but I wasn't thinking about it often. And almost as soon as I released my attachment to it, the next day I woke up and I had this strong feeling that I needed to go visit my grandma in the hospital. And so she was in the hospital and I rearranged my day so I could go visit her. And as soon as I got there, I walked into the hospital room and they hadn't taken away her lunch tray yet. And there was this big pile of asparagus on her plate. And I just started laughing. And inside, it was like this little message that just went into my head really quick. It was, this is where you're supposed to be. You're supposed to be here right now.
Yeah.
And it was just like this little piece that went over me. And I was like, my gosh, this is so cool. and funny and random and whatnot. But after that, I started asking for signs, and every couple weeks it would show up. And there was always that inner piece that showed up with it of, this is where you're supposed to be. And so it was fun. But again, releasing the attachment, I realized how important that is, because you can start to get kind of a negative vibe happening if you're like, well, it happens to that person, but it doesn't happen to me. And that's just more awareness. That just is, a way to figure out what you actually believe about yourself.
Yeah, I love that you brought that up because it literally is vital to understand that it's important to let go of the outcome and surrender to it. And this is in life too, what we're desiring to create, being willing to take it off our shoulders. We don't have to be the one to do it all. It is about control, right? When we try to control and we get rigid in that, it stifles creation, and it blocks the flow of what the magic, the beauty that can come in all the different ways, right? We can be like seeing in this way rather than letting go and being more expansive and trusting and having faith.
Yeah. And I think I need that reminder a lot because I don't love that I do this, but I do try to control and manipulate situations to go the way that I want it to go. And now that I'm noticing it more, it's easier to step out of that. But as a mother, something that I was thinking about the other day, I'm like, I really want to be a mom that empowers and strengthens her boys. I've got 3 boys. And I realize how easy it is to be a mom that enables and weakens her boys. Not on purpose. It's because you're trying to do all these things and you're accidentally enabling them and accidentally weakening them. So I was just becoming really aware of that and what I want out of as a mother. And then I was asking how? Like how do I do that? How do I become a mom that empowers and strengthens her kids? And I'm still like honing in exactly what the answer was, but I do feel like a lot of it comes back to joy of if I can live in my joy more rather than this need to, you have to do it this way and it has to look like this and trying to control it so much for this specific outcome. I want them to be empowered and strengthened. So I'm going to like try really hard. It was like almost that I'm like suffocating it. I'm like repelling it because I want it so much. It was just, I don't know. It was kind of funny. It's like, Kira, let go, let go. So it's, yeah, anyway, just a little tidbit about my week.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like that can be very common. And in my experience, it's almost like focusing on what do we want to feel? And feeling that and connecting into the feeling of what it's like, but letting go of the outcome of how it has to look. And so there's a couple of stories that came up for me that just becoming aware of like what I wanted. So when I had moved, I was like, I would like to have a lamp in this room, and I really want like a bookshelf. It's not big deal. But the very next day, it's like I wasn't even trying, and I was led to, I think it was in my Facebook feed, like this brand new shelf that was like perfect. And I was like, my gosh, that is like the perfect shelf. So I messaged them and I like went to go get it. And when I got there, it was like perfect. And he loaded it up and he goes, so we're actually moving and I have a lamp if you would like it. And I was like, sure, let me go see it. And it was like perfect. And this was like the next day. Obviously that's something that's smaller. It's not detrimental in life, but I really did just speak it. What did I want? Spoke it. I had no attachment to it because it wasn't like, a bigger thing that we might have more attachments to, So
Yeah.
just kind of like speak and let it go and allow the universe to bring it in. It's like, I think when we let go, it allows that magnetism to come in, and it's just so magical having those experiences. You're just like, wow, you can't even make this stuff up. It
Yeah.
happens all the time when you surrender and let go and you're clear on what you want, even if you just like write it down, right? The power of like writing things down. And then, putting it away. You're not even like focused on it every day. Okay, what am I going to do? What are the steps I'm going to do? How am I going to do this? All this stuff. The power of getting clear on what you want and even putting it away. I know you've shared that before.
Yeah, of Tyler doing that.
Yeah, maybe share that again.
Yeah, my husband, Tyler, when we were married, not very long, we had a baby that was just born. And a month later, he had taken a notebook and he wrote "Imagine if" on the notebook. And he was writing as if he was his future self of who he wanted to become. And we were at the time managing apartments. We really did not have a lot of income, and we had a little tiny baby. And he wrote in this notebook, and I found it 10 years, maybe like 13 years later. We were remodeling our house and I found the notebook. So it took over a decade and I found it and I was reading it and I'm like, what is this? Because it was like, it said, I'm so happy and grateful that my wife and I wake up every morning when we are able to work out together. And today we flew in my airplane and we flew over the Palisades and we stopped in this place for lunch. And I'm so grateful that we own this fourplex and that my wife has a wedding videography business and all these things that we were doing at that time. Like, we had just bought a fourplex like 3 or 4 years earlier, and I was at this time doing a wedding videography business, and I'm like, "What? Like, how did he know all this was gonna happen?" I was so confused when I was reading it, and I was looking at it and just I got chills when I was reading it because I realized that that's the power of our words and our intention. And as he was writing it down, he was living it. He was really like feeling what that would be like to do that. And the timing of it was just hilarious because it just like he had become a pilot like 4 or 5 months before that and had got a plane and like all these things had just barely happened when I found it and it just made it that much more magical. And yeah, anyway, power of our words.
Yeah, I love that. So yeah, when you think about the power of your words in the ways in which you talk to yourself, the ways in which you speak out loud, just be mindful of like the impact on our bodies, the impact of even people around us, our loved ones, what they hear. And is what we're saying aligned with what we actually desire? Taking time to get clear on the desires of our heart, what we would love, like, and no holding back. No restriction, no limitation, like what your husband did. That's such a great example of just, I mean, imagining and holding space for dreaming. And I just feel like God really deeply desires to bless us with an abundance of all of what we desire, like no limitation.
Yeah. And I know that's easier for some people. Like, for some reason, for my husband, that's really easy to dream big and to say all these grand things that he wants. And maybe it's not easy for me. Like, and maybe there's a safety aspect of that. Maybe there's still some limiting beliefs there that I need to work through. But it's actually, it's a lot easier than it used to be. It used to be hard. It used to be very uncomfortable to say, we have this and this that are these really big things. I didn't like it. And now actually, yeah, now it is a lot easier. There's practice there too. It's like just starting it, whether it feels comfortable or not. And if it feels uncomfortable, good, because you're going to be working through some limiting beliefs. You're going to move past that so you can expand. Out of curiosity, is it easy for you to do that, or has that ever changed for you?
Well, for most of my life, I didn't even know that was a thing.
Yeah.
You know, so I had no awareness. I was more living my life in unconscious creation. And actually, this memory came to mind that was so distinct one day. Like my kids were like sick and I kept having to take them to the doctor. And it was like this pattern and I'm like, what is happening? And then for a moment I thought, am I creating this somehow? And then I decided to shift my focus on my kids being healthy. And this was before I knew anything, but it legit changed it. So becoming aware of the patterns. What are the patterns that we're recognizing and how can we choose differently? How can we focus differently? How can we speak differently to bring life into what we actually want and nurture that, water that, put focus on that rather than what we don't want, which I feel like oftentimes that's where our focus tends to be because we're not recognizing the power of that we are constantly creating. And if we get intentional, we can consciously create something different.
Yeah, because sometimes it feels safer. It feels safer to just, stay small. But I don't know. I just that just popped in my head thinking about what you're saying. I'm like, why wouldn't you do that? Why wouldn't you, start stepping into that because it's so awesome? But if you've got some scary stuff to work through, maybe maybe that would stop you. I don't know, but it's totally not worth it. Don't let those things stop you, because it's this is your human experience. This is your chance on earth in a physical body to experience what you want to experience. So do it. Just do it.
Start somewhere.
Yeah.
Where do you want to focus? I mean, I've had so many experiences getting clear on what I want just right now I could think of 3. When we were looking for a home, we wanted a home to move to in Idaho, and I really wanted specific things. So I was very intentional, and like one time with my friends, really speaking it out, like arms wide open, speaking like, God, I'm ready to receive this. And I was led to that home, and every single thing I asked for came to fruition and more. And I mean, okay, what was the other things? Something as simple as being at a conference and there's something they're giving away. And I sat there and I was like, God, I would really love that. If that's something that you desire for me to receive, and that's something that I can be blessed by, it's okay if somebody else needs it more than me. I trust you. But I would love that. And I want it.
That's awesome.
So, I mean, and there's other times I just trust, like, if it's not for me, it's okay. Even like I went on a cruise recently and we were playing a game that's like right, left, center. And we played 3 different rounds. Have you heard of that?
No.
So everybody had like $3. And it's like a dice game, and each dice, it's the right, left, or center. In the center, you put the dollar in, and if you roll right, you pass it to the person on the right or to the left, the dollar. And you never know what's going to happen, because you could like give away your money and then somebody rolls it and goes to you. But anyways, I was like, you know what? I'm going to try this. So I was just envisioning and feeling into like winning it, and just like seeing it, feeling it. By the 3rd round, it worked. So our intention and what we desire, and also just being open, right? Like surrendering, like I have no attachment to this, but it would be fun,
Right.
and holding space for it, that it could be an option. And if it doesn't, it's okay. Like
Right.
if I wouldn't have won, I would have been like, fine. But it's fun to like try it on these things that have like just test it out, like a sign or whatever.
I think what makes it all work too is what you were just saying there. It's fun. Like, it's just a way to add joy to our life and to add more understanding and maybe a little bit more depth. And, it's like a staircase, you're taking steps. And so if you experiment with some small things and it helps you to gain trust and to learn and understand yourself, like it's just a way to bring joy and not get so attached to a specific outcome like we mentioned before. So
Yeah.
I love the practice. I think it's a good way to just say, hey, why don't you just try that experiment? Like, why not? And
Yeah, I did this. Okay, I want to share this one other story. And then I thought about you and how you got so intentional with meditation and creation, and for you to share what your experience was from that. So I was also like, I was working with a mentor and I was focusing on like, what did I want to experience? And I was getting clear on different details of it. And it was so cool to see how it was magnetized in. And even without me trying different things, like I was just like seeing my husband here. We had moved to Idaho Falls, and seeing us going and getting all of our things and bringing them, because we came and then we had to get our stuff later. But I was just visualizing that and everything just flowing with ease. And then one thing that I was wanting to create was just like him coming home and like us dancing in the kitchen. Like I just wanted that. And so I would take time to just connect into it and just feel what would that feel like, just music playing and dancing with him in the kitchen. Well, one day, I mean, we had got all our stuff, and I just happened to be one day I was playing music and I happened to be in the kitchen, but I play music often, and so I was in the kitchen. I was just kind of dancing and expressing gratitude. I love to just dance in joy. And then all of a sudden he comes in from the garage, and there's like this perfect song, and it was like the perfect moment. Like I didn't even set it up. I wasn't even thinking about it, but because it like happened, I was like, oh, this is it. And so I was like, you want to dance with me? And so we just started dancing. I was just like, this is so cool.
That is awesome. And there's countless stories of athletes doing that, like the visualizing and everything and feeling it, how it'll feel to win that gold medal or to this and that. There's so many of those stories, and it happened exactly how they visualized it. It's so with meditation, that's part of the practice that I do is ending each meditation session with a visualization, manifestation, prayer, essentially all these things put together where I'm imagining the life that I want as if it's already happening. So you're really, really feeling those feelings. One of the things that I really wanted when I first started meditating was to be surrounded by people who were like to have employees in our business that were just amazing and responsible. I had a lot of words that I would say, like capable, competent, respectful, honest, hard worker, creative, all these different things. And so I was really allowing myself to feel that. And that to me, it just brought me a lot of peace because I think I put a lot of weight on myself to do all the things. And so as soon as I started believing that I was worthy to have that too, to be surrounded by those people, they just magically just started dropping in. Like, here I am. I'll run this and I'll manage that and I'll do this. And they just were coming in, and it transformed like our business, and it's still transforming it. And it's really, really great to see. And I live in so much gratitude. And our manager right now, I just love her because she also can see the little miracles and the gratitude. And so it's fun because when we're consciously working on creating something and then things just start to magnetize to it, we can look at each other and be like, that's cool. Like we were just talking about that. And so it's just brought so much more joy to the business world for me because that hasn't always been joyful. It's been kind of heavy and hard, and I thought it was supposed to be hard. And so to realize that it can be fun and we can include other people in that fun was so powerful and really life-changing for me.
Yeah. And that's the truth about creating, is that when you let go of attachment and you just connect into the joy and what it would feel like, and you just get excited.
Yeah.
Oh, don't know how this is going to happen, but all right. And allow it. It's magical.
Yeah.
It is so magical. You brought up a very important piece that I forgot to mention too, is that when you receive and you experience it afterwards, a really important part is just connecting into the gratitude that
Yeah.
it came in
Mm.
and the joy and the gratitude. Like, this just happened. It's here. Like, it just birthed like everything I've been speaking. And so it's so exciting. And expressing that and feeling that is what also allows more come in.
Yes.
As you have that grateful heart.
Yep. It goes back to the episode we did with Candace where she said gratitude is a magnet for miracles. Really, really is. Figure out a way to live in gratitude where you are. Be grateful for every little thing, and it'll magnetize more and more into your life.
Yeah. So, and then through your meditations, were there other things that you got to experience that you connected in with, that you were expressing desire and that came to fruition.
Absolutely. And it was cool because it was never difficult either. It was always the things that organically happened. One of the things I really wanted to do was visit another country with our kids and to serve people in another country that spoke a different language. Really, really wanted that. So I was saying that and allowing myself to feel that. And then one day I was standing in the kitchen and a friend sent me a text message while my husband was standing right next to me. And it was asking if we wanted to go on this family trip to serve at an orphanage in Mexico. So she had it all arranged. She had it all planned. And she was asking if we wanted to go. And the timing of it was wonderful because I looked at it and then I showed Tyler and he was like, yeah, that'd be cool. We should do that. And I'm like, yeah, we should do that. And I just very quickly was like, yeah, like, sounds good. And the timing of it just worked out wonderfully to where it fit in with some gymnastics competitions that my son had. And we drove our motor home and we stopped at a gymnastics competition, went to Mexico, volunteered at an orphanage, picked up a puppy while we were there, and she's the best dog ever. And then stopped in Arizona and then came home. And it was one of those things I'm like, wow, that just happened.
Yeah.
And I didn't have to figure it all out. It just fell into our lap.
Yeah, so true. So yeah, the power of understanding, getting clear on our desires. So, I'm realizing not only are we talking about the power of our words and our beliefs, but we're talking about creation and manifestation too. So in the power of our words, we are creating. And it can be easy. It doesn't have to be hard. That's why it's important too to let go of the how. Because if we start to try to figure it out and try to have this control, it really stifles and blocks and it pulls you out of that magic, that flow that is so incredible.
Yeah. And that's what I was doing. Like back when my husband was making big goals, all I could think about was the how. And that was suffocating to me. That didn't feel good at all because I put that on myself of, well, now I have to figure out how to do all this. I don't know why I did that. But yeah, we just release the how and focus on what feels light and enjoyable and true joy too, not just a surface level happiness. What will bring your soul, what will light up your soul. That's the direction that you should head.
And the power of your words, when you get clear on that, is to just speak it out. So even with this podcast, when I received understanding that came in the beautiful experience I had in receiving revelation about it, I was then told to go share it with a group of my close friends. And I was like, yeah, because as you speak what you desire to create, it gets things in motion.
Yeah.
And I said, I don't know how this is going to happen, but I'm just going to speak it. And I know, I'm just telling you guys, I'm going to do this. I've never done it in my life. I don't even know anything about it, how to do a podcast and stuff, but letting it go. Just I'll see how God brings this in, how it can be created. And it was so beautiful. I look back and I literally look at the different dates and how that happened, like the night of the 7th into the early mornings of the 8th. And then our conversation happened on the 11th in September. And just to see it whoa, unfold as you speak, you let go and you open, receive, and you just declare it. You focus on what you want and you open, receiving is key, to receive.
Yeah.
And trust and have faith.
Yeah. And just as a last thing with it before we end this episode, because we could do a whole episode on this, but it's the more you receive, the more you can give. And the more you give, the more you can receive. It's energetic circle and it needs to keep going. Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
It's like in the infinity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's so that I think about it constantly when I find myself maybe moving into a little bit more scarcity of oh, I need to hold on to this. I'm like, no. Give. Give in abundance and you'll receive in abundance. It's a really good reminder to keep things flowing and to give generously and to not limit yourself, because when you limit yourself, you limit your ability to give to others. So it's really a way to, just to give back and to add more abundance to the whole human family, and to continue to grow. I just wanted to have that reminder at the end.
Beautiful. Yeah. And another focus that we could have is about receiving and gratitude and the tie in with generosity as well.
Yeah.
So cool.
Yeah, it's good stuff. All about leading us back to joy.
Yeah, it does. It's
Yeah.
joyful to create and to be open in the expanse of like allowing God to bless us
Mm-hmm.
with the desires of our heart.
And knowing that we never have to do it alone. We've got our Savior walking right alongside us the whole time. And anytime it does feel too heavy or like you're gonna die if you have to take this step into this scary place, just remember that He's right there with you and that you can do anything with Him. There's a quote that Camille Johnson just gave, and it was about like life can be really hard, or life is hard, but you can do hard with Jesus. And you can do hard alone, or you can do it with Jesus. And when you do it with Jesus, it becomes holy.
Mm-hmm.
And I love that anyone who's gone through something really, really hard and they've included Jesus in their journey, they can look back and see what a sacred and holy experience that was. So as we go through all of this, remember, when it feels hard or when it feels joyful, all of it, just include Jesus in the journey. It's a lot better that way.
Yes, always.
Yes. Okay, perfect. Well, thanks, Shalise. It was a good conversation.
All right, bye.
Bye.